What's up, guys? My name's Gwendolyn, and I'm 25 years old. When I got stranded on a deserted island of bachelors, I got to have my pick. Before I tell you which guy I chose and why, go ahead and like and subscribe so you can get lost in more hidden wisdom stories. So this story starts on a high note because for the first time in 2 years, I was free of my jerk-faced boyfriend, Todd, who was now my ex-boyfriend. I was sad for months before I was willing to start dating again. My bestie, Gianna, had been trying to get me to go out ever since I broke it off with Jerkface. But you know how it is when you're still getting over someone. Anyway, one day she sent me this invite link to sign up for a singles cruise. I had never been on a cruise before, and I was interested. I wasn't so sure about the whole singles thing. But Gianna promised me it would be fun and told me to live a little. When I was younger, I was the kind of girl that most of the guys passed up. I didn't like to wear makeup or doll myself up like a lot of the superficial girls I went to school with. And so I always felt a little bit invisible around guys, or at least the superficial guys. Maybe that's why I fell so hard for Todd. Anyways, Gianna was right. I had to forget about him, so I decided to join her on the singles cruise. We took a road trip down to the coast where the cruise ship was docked. When we boarded, Gianna and I were immediately impressed with the guys there. They were all so handsome, and I'll admit I had been a little lonely lately since the breakup with Todd. I guess you could say I was enjoying the view and having fun. I was beginning to relax and enjoyed the entertainment and food. I met this kinda cute, kinda shy guy named Alex, who I kinda liked. But just as we were starting to get to know each other, there was this crash that sounded like we got hit by a torpedo, and the whole cruise ship jerked to a halt. We found out later it was an air valve something or another that caused some sort of leakage, and they had to stop the cruise. Combustibility was a possibility, and everybody started to panic. But they ended up getting rescue planes to come take us to another ship where we could continue our cruise. I split up with Gianna at that point because everything was moving so fast, and I ended up in this small plane with Alex and 2 other guys. I remember clinging to Alex tightly because the plane they were boarding us onto looked like it was about 100 years old, and I wasn't so sure about it. But the pilot seemed confident, and we couldn't stay on the cruise ship, so I went with it. The whole flight, everything was shaking like a bucket of bolts in a massage chair, but I wasn't relaxed at all. Then, one of the propellers popped, and everybody started to trip out like crazy. But then the pilot, Jeff, was telling us all to be quiet and that he had trained for this very moment all his life. Was I cursed or something? This whole singles week was turning out to be a disaster. And now I was wondering if I was even going to survive, let alone come back with a new boyfriend. Jeff manned the plane, found a string of islands, and braced for landing. I was hyperventilating and praying for a miracle. We were coming down hard and fast. The water was getting closer and closer. Suddenly, we evened out. I thought an explosion was going to come at any moment, but it didn't. It was just a bump, but my heart sank into my stomach. But when I opened my eyes, everything was still, and everybody was okay. Jeff was screaming that we made it. But when we got out of the plane and stepped onto the island, we realized we were miles from anybody, and the plane was broken beyond repair. We were absolutely stranded. The guys were talking about making shelter and fires, and I realized I was the only girl on an island of single men. Well, not Jeff. I came to find out that he was married, but the other guys were bachelors. And for the first time, I was noticing how handsome they were. And they were noticing me. Alex was already following me around like a puppy. And the other dudes were practically fighting each other over who would introduce themselves first. There was Isaac and Pete. At first, I thought I liked Pete the best. because he had the biggest muscles and he was really funny. The first thing he said to me was that we needed Tom Hanks and Wilson to help us get out of there. But Isaac was really smart. He pointed out that we had to prioritize our objectives. And our first goal should be water, and I felt safe around him. We realized that our situation wasn't a joke. Everybody was bickering about what to do next. All the guys were looking at me to make the decision. It was weird because for the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible to guys anymore. Isaac rationed out the water bottles we had in the plane, while Pete gathered wood and prepared a campsite. That night around the campfire, the guys were competing and getting jealous of each other. If I laughed at Pete's joke, Isaac would try to cut him down. If I gave attention to Isaac or his ideas about building a raft of our own, Pete would try to get all alpha about it and push Isaac out of the way to get closer to me. At first, I was startled by their behavior and told them not to fight. But the more it happened, the more I started to like it. I never really had that influence over guys before, but here, I was like their queen. And I started using my newfound prowess to get them to take care of me. They were so busy competing for me that I didn't have to do anything. And the singles vacation turned out better than imagined. Isaac designed this throne of bamboo for me. And Pete climbed trees and used the engine propeller to knock down coconuts for me. Alex stayed out of the fight and was always asking if I was okay. I wondered which of the guys would make a better boyfriend. It was hard to choose, but it was a good problem to have. But my dream vacation didn't last long. One night, Jeff woke us up. He couldn't sleep and had gone for a walk by the beach. And he saw a fire in the distance, and he thought maybe there were others on the island that could help get us back to safety. We followed Jeff to a cove where we saw not just one fire, but many. It was a whole village of people, and I think we were all relieved because we thought they'd be able to help us get a message home. But of course, the guys found something to argue about, and one of the villagers woke up. Soon, we were surrounded by torches, and the villagers were pointing at us. But Isaac told us to use nonverbals and put up our hands. Soon, the villagers saw us as safe, and Isaac began drawing pictures in the sand to communicate that we were stranded. And in the morning, we showed them our broken plane. They had some sort of fishing convoy out for about a week, but when they returned, they would be able to take us to a port, where we could find hotels and telephones. But there was something strange about the village. There were almost all girls, and my attention from the boys immediately slammed to a stop. Isaac and Pete were no longer getting in each other's faces over me, and they actually started to get along. It didn't hurt that they both had a girl on each arm. Here, the girl-to-guy ratio was like 5-to-1. And when we asked about this strange phenomenon, the villagers drew these sand pictures that told the tale about some sort of typhoon or sea demon that cursed the village with few men. I don't know about any typhoon demons, but maybe it was all the coconut water they were drinking. That week on the island, I learned that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, or queen. When I was the only girl on the island, I had all the power. But once I had to compete with a village of beautiful women, I suddenly lost it all. But the good thing was that I finally figured out who the right guy for me was. It was Alex all along. He never turned anything into a fight, but he was always by my side. And now that there were tons of women interested in him, he was still giving me all his attention. My singles cruise turned out crazier than imagined, but pretty good overall. When we got back to Port Stateside, I introduced Alex to Gianna, and she thought we made a cute couple. So, I guess I'm not single anymore, fellas. Have you ever tried to play the field? Tell us about it in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden wisdom stories. Remember, when you share our stories, you're sharing wisdom.